The Alpha Sessions.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Alpha Sessions. My name is Pien and I'm here with the lovely Thea.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's for the listeners probably, it's my first time. It's my first interview, so I'm a bit nervous, but I'm sure it will be all fine. And I must say, it's so funny doing research into your music because I've met you now a few times, but didn't really dig into your catalog. So that was really interesting. And I really loved your EP.
Thank you.
Definitely for everyone who is listening. Please check that out. It's called Falling Forward. And I especially love the first song, Noise.
Yeah.
And
that's so funny that you say, okay, yeah. That's actually really moving to hear because that's the only one that I self-produced.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And
why?
I wasn't sure that I was going to put it on because I've produced quite a bit, but not release. Only way back in the day I released something that was fully self-produced. And so I kind of lost a bit of confidence with that, but Noise, I kept on it.
That's so interesting. And
that's lovely.
Why did you choose to produce that one yourself?
Noise was actually, I wrote that during COVID. Long story short, I was in Melbourne for COVID. Melbourne had essentially a 9 month lockdown. We came out of it for a couple of weeks, but it was pretty horrific. I mean, we didn't have health scares, I guess, in the sense that lots of other places in the world did. So it certainly wasn't worse than any other place. But in terms of not being allowed out, we were stuck. And in COVID, I just... I think my brain really scared me because I was it felt very blank, but also very noisy and and I couldn't get out anywhere. And it was this really, and so Noise was that song, which is why I felt by the time the EP came out, it was, we were starting to open up again. But it felt like such a cornerstone of the period in which luckily I got all the recording done before we actually got locked down. And then that whole next period was kind of getting everything mixed and it felt like such a missing piece to the EP because it felt kind of inauthentic to release it without having an aspect of what the finishing few months of it were like.
So that was literally the last song you did?
It was the last So it wasn't
wow.
actually intended to be on there. Everything was finished and then we essentially went into lockdown 2 weeks later. And then I went back and forth about whether I was happy with the EP or not. And in that time, whilst all the, post-recording bits were getting done, I felt like that was a missing piece and I wrote it and produced it myself and ended up keeping it because I thought the EP didn't feel finished and kind of felt like it was withholding a bit of truth without that song.
That's so interesting because what I love about the song is just how it opens literally almost like a show, like the opening number of the album and with the echoes and stuff. I'm a huge fan of echoey choral kind of compositions and stuff. And I was just wondering how, especially knowing now that it was the last thing you worked on, how did it shape for you the rest of the album, especially because it matches so well with the outro as well?
I would say it didn't shape anything else because everything else was done before it. But in terms of how I hear the rest of it now and how I feel about the rest of it, I think I struggle. One of the things because with this EP in particular, I went back and forth about whether I was actually going to release it and whether I needed to start from scratch. And I just very much, probably also a bit of a sign at the times. I don't know. It was just it was a long release process because I was so unsure about it.
And why was that?
I think one of the things was that I wasn't sure that it felt like me, a lot of the songs. And so until that song made its way onto it, I think that was the place that song held for me in terms of the despite the fact everything was finished, my relationship with the other songs changed once that went on it because it felt like it set the rest up as being me, if that makes... I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
but
it does.
Yeah. And actually, hilariously, because I did that song without anyone else, I think by the time I finished it, my ear fatigue and all the rest, and I was like, I don't know if what I'm hearing is good or not or whatever. And so much so that I actually sent the wrong version to the masterer.
Oh, no way.
So I had to pay for mastering twice, which I think is a sign that it was meant to be on it because I was like, no, we're committing to it. But no, that's so lovely to hear. And it actually has some birds. The one thing I do love about that song is that I accidentally didn't close my window when I was recording, I think, and some birds made their way into the recording.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I nearly did it again, but I thought that's pretty special to have to have the local birds in the final track. Yeah,
because it makes it so special and unique as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I noticed from listening to your music that it has quite an old school feel.
Yeah.
Like where you were just performing Steel String Hands,
Yeah.
your song. It's almost like Carole King, like 60s, 70s kind of
Yeah.
reference. Is that a thing that you consciously like put in your music because you're inspired by them, or is it just something that happens naturally?
That is such a crazy thing that you've just pulled out. Carole King is she is one of those influences who is I now like would fully say that she is an influence that I absolutely adore. But the reason she is an influence is because my dad just wouldn't stop playing, like Up on the Roof, that all the James Taylor and Carole King stuff was just a constant in my house. My sisters and I have two sisters, and we always laugh about the fact that most of the songs we know from childhood, we actually didn't hear the real version until like we were in our teen years, because Dad plays a lot, and so we know Dad's versions, but we didn't quite realize that Dad's versions were quite unique and not the actual song. So it's a weird experience hearing the actual song and being like, oh.
And he played them like on guitar, did you have a piano? Oh, lovely.
We actually had a music room, which I thought was very normal. And lots of friends would say, what mansion are you living in? I'm like, no, it's no mansion. It's just that we have a music room.
Which is like a little cupboard in the corner of the house kind of
I think once a week he would come home with some new instrumental device or something, and my mum would be like, do we need more? And he'd be like, yes.
So was he a musician?
Not professionally. He could have been, but no, not professionally. So yes, Carole King is one of those people who Dad just absolutely rinsed. And I think at the time he was, Emmylou Harris is another one of those people.
Love her.
I would be like, can you turn her off? And now I love listening to them, and it's totally right that they definitely made their way into how I write and I guess my sound in general, but not necessarily originally by choice.
Yeah.
I wait in the window for you to come home. The greatest love I think I'll ever know. The smell of your t-shirt from the night, as you held me tight, said, darling, it would be alright. I still feel the rough in the palm of your hand, the steel string hands of a music man. I still hear the sound of the summer nights when you play Billy on repeat till I was sleeping alright. I know things don't look like they used to anymore, but things change, I know they do. But one thing that won't is to still be needing you forever. Things change, and that means you too lucky you gave me my own steel string hands to hold you forever. So I'll fall asleep singing Tooraloo-Rally, 'cause I still find home in your lullaby. Took a whole lot of years to love these hands that are just like yours. Now I cherish every bit of them with every note I play. I know things don't look like they used to anymore, but things change, I know they do. But one thing that won't is to still be needing you forever. Things change, and that means you. So lucky you gave me my own steel string hands to hold you forever. Singing to relay, to relay, to relay. Yeah. Things change, and that means you. So lucky you gave me my own steel string hands to hold you forever.
The Alpha Sessions.
It's funny because when you just played them acoustic, it almost has like a very, like I said, like 60s, 70s Laurel Canyon kind of vibe, almost a bit country. And then when I was listening at your stuff, it's a little bit more soul and like, well, not jazz influenced. And I'm just wondering, is that also a genre that you really love, like the country 60s, 70s thing? And maybe that soul thing was a sound of the past since it's been a while since you released? Or?
Absolutely. No, the soul thing. So yes, country, as a kid, Dixie Chicks were they're now the Chicks, but I absolutely adored them. So country was definitely a big part of growing up, and that was actually I love them. But the soul thing, there was also a lot of Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald, all of those people in the house. And then when I was 14, I actually started performing with a soul R&B big band, and that really introduced me to Motown and Stax and all of that properly. And I adore that stuff. And then Beyonce and all the pop icons made their way into my life, and I love them equally. So I think I spent quite a while actually trying to figure out what my genre is, because I felt like, and we were just talking about social media and all the things, and I think we're often told that we need to fit into quite a marketable box. And sure, I think if that's authentic to you, it can be really helpful. But I think I will always struggle with that, because I really do love and draw from such a mishmash of stuff that I don't think I'm ever really going to pocket myself into like one particular thing, because I just can't. No. And so I've kind of stopped trying to, I guess. But yes, you're so right. All of those things are
I think that's really good, because I actually hear it a lot, and I've been struggling myself as well to like find your genre and find your thing, because I, funnily enough, had a similar journey with like loving country music from a young age, and also have like Ella Fitzgerald in the house a lot. And then you're in your teens. I was a huge fan of like Katy Perry and like Lady Gaga. And then it's funny how when you're older, or like getting into your 20s again for the first time, that it goes back to like what you first started listening to. And would you say if you listen now or still play your old stuff, that is maybe more a little bit of the jazz thing that you, I don't want to say regret recording that, or what is your relationship with your old material or older material?
I definitely wouldn't say I regret the songs as such, but I think I attach a sense of trying to create something that other people would like or perceive in a certain way at the time of writing them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it's like playing them now, I still like the songs, and it's not that I don't like them, and I'm grateful for all the experiences, but what I do, which I could potentially go back and change, is how I approached writing them, because it was less about how it felt for me and more about it. I can't explain it properly, because it wasn't like I was trying to create like a pop hit or anything, but I definitely was writing them in a place that was very conscious of what other people would perceive them as, and in that I was very much trying to push away those like country folky roots that I'd been brought up on, as opposed to saying that is very much a part of me, and and like I love all of these other genres too. I don't have to actively try to push away that folky kind of country sound that people hear in me, because I definitely was thinking that makes me less cool's not the word either, but and I genuinely do love R&B and pop and soul, so it's not like I was fooling myself into trying to create that, but I do still feel a sense that when I wrote both of those last EPs, I was trying to dissociate from a key part of what got me into music in the first place. So I think in the last couple of years since, I have really gone back to listening to what got me into music, and that is all the stuff that my dad introduced me to, because that's what in my case, like, music has always been around, and therefore it was the stuff that my dad was showing my sisters and I at the start that made me love music, and the stuff he played as well, because that's how I learned. So,
and is that maybe also why sort of your last release is almost 2 years ago? Is that also maybe why you've been waiting for so long to release new stuff?
Definitely. It hasn't been an intentional waiting period in the sense that I was like, I am going to give myself 2 years. But yes, it has been a period of taking stock for a second and being like, okay, what makes me love music? Why am I doing music? Because no one's forcing me to, and it is because I love it. But what approach can I have that keeps me in that mindset of being inspired by music and having that love for it, rather than it becoming quite a stressful thing, because that's not what it's about.
No, and I feel maybe in nowadays, like, scene, it's just so many expectations of like, oh, you have to release every, 6 weeks something, and what is your branding, and it's almost not about the music anymore.
No, definitely. And I think actually a really funny earlier in the year, Shania Twain played BST Hyde Park. And my friends and I actually got a ticket. I remember calling my dad to tell him how excited I was. And he said, "You're going to Shania Twain? But I always tried to introduce you to Shania Twain and you always like kicked up a fuss." It was a really funny, like, it reminded me of how much I definitely was vetoing what I was allowed to like or not like, because that's true. He would have tried to, and I would have been like, not more country, no. But I adore her and all of that stuff. And it was a nice kind of reminder of like letting yourself like what you like, and you don't need to have reasons for that or to be able to justify it. And I think that kind of approach allows you to enjoy the process of creating more as well, because you're not kind of blocking yourself. I don't know. I
think it's just so easy, especially when you're just starting out with your own original music, because of course most people, and I think you're the same, you start playing covers and singing along with your favorite artist and kind of try to learn how they do a certain riff or a certain way of singing or playing. And then it's up to you to make your own stuff and be your own artist. And then it's so... I had a lot of trouble in the beginning with almost asking too much for permission. Oh, is this in the right way, how it's supposed to be? Is this how you write a song? Is this how you produce it? And then it's almost like the more you're doing it now, and the longer you've been doing it and trying different things, you're breaking more like free from those things. And maybe it's also just a parent thing, coming back to your dad with like Shania Twain about like your parents telling you what to do, and then you're like, oh, absolutely not. And then you're coming back from that.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. I think you're so right in like there's like thinking about a right way to do something or not, and I feel like I also think, because as I said, like it wasn't me forcing myself to like R&B or more soul pop oriented stuff, but I think the reason I found it a little bit complicated when I was in the process of recording those 2 EPs was because I was definitely telling myself that there was a certain way in which those styles had to be done. And unfortunately, in my head, country and folk elements didn't make their way. Rather than kind of blending them, I was like, no, it needs to be a certain way. And I think you're spot on. Like, well,
I think it's also for a thing of the last few years that we're allowed to blend things. Yeah. Because... I don't want to say that in 2015 I was super aware of the industry or whatever. I was only 17 then. But I feel like back in the day it was more putting genres and people in boxes, and now we're finally, maybe because of the pandemic, since everyone started, I feel, since them self-producing or finally writing and that kind of stuff, that people are allowing themselves to blend, because even now you have country music with R&B.
Yep.
That's really big and that kind of
Definitely.
stuff. And I'm wondering, because you said that noise, coming back to noise, you self-produced that.
Yes.
And then was that the first time you self-produced yourself?
No, I actually have a little. So my very first EP, I had, the way I normally work is that I will produce up pretty full demos to then work with the producer on, because it gives me an idea of, well, it gives them an idea as well of what I'm going for. And so for my first EP, Building Blocks, there were 5 songs that I had produced up pretty full demos for, but they didn't end up being used for that EP. And I kind of thought, either these are going to sit here on my computer and never see the day of light, or the light of day, not the day of light.
That's all right. I do it all the time as well.
Or I can put a little bit more time into them and just kind of quietly release them so they exist somewhere in the ether. And that's what I did. And so there's a little mixtape called On Air, which is all of my production, which was kind of a spin-off of that first EP. Yeah. So that's all entirely mine. But yeah, it's something I'd like to do, probably not this coming EP, but maybe the next one. I'm going to try and commit to producing a bit more fully myself. I'm still, yeah.
And then mainly for your own projects or also for other people's artist projects?
Both, I think. I do love production. I find it a little, I think it's one of those things that it's just like, it's a muscle, and you got to do more of it to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Particularly for other people. I find it easier for myself because I can sit there and take my own time, and
exactly. There's no pressure.
Less pressure.
Did you mean it when you said you were rolling in my head? And was I dreaming when I swore that you wake up in my bed? Well, it was one high and you won the follow-up. That part's not just in my mind. There was a walk home and you cleared the future up. Maybe I held on too tight. It tempts me with that look in your eye, and oh my God, does it hurt? Now I know that you've got her by your side. Problem's not her, and oh my God, does it hurt? Yeah, no. Well, you were everything to me in a second. Did you notice? Either you had me looking goddamn desperate, making me believe there'd be a next time, and you'd keep on showing up, going wherever I go. Well, it was stage lights and you pulled the curtain up just to a different show. You tempt me with that look in your eye, and oh my God, does it hurt? Now I know that you've got her by your side. Oh, the problem's not her, and oh my God, does that hurt? Yeah, no. I jumped in the heat of the moment, and you left me waiting tonight. Guess it was stupid of me not to notice. You gave me all of the reasons to try. Yeah. And oh my God, does that hurt? Yeah, you tempt me with that look in your eye, and oh my God, does it hurt? Now I know that you've got her by your side. The problem's not her. Oh my God, does that hurt? Yeah. you said you were all in my head. Maybe I was crazy thinking one day you'd be here with me instead. And oh my God, does it hurt?
The Alpha Sessions.
You also play quite a lot live. We actually been talking about that before the recording.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated by, I know so many people who are like, let me be in the studio and that's my happy place. And if I have to perform live, okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
But what is your relationship with live versus studio?
Of course. The last couple of years since that last release in November 2022 have been a bit of an eye-opener for me in that space. I love performing live and find it a lot more comfortable because there's no perfectionism. Well, there is perfectionism in live, but to me, I don't have to commit to a certain version of something if I'm playing live, particularly because I'm playing solo most of the time. I can kind of do it however I want to do it in the moment. And as much as I have an idea of how I want it to go, there's less pressure on it being the final take or the final. And there are also other people around as well. So it's not, you sitting solo trying to work away at something, listening back to your own voice and freaking out because it doesn't sound how you want it to sound, and you can't decide if that's the right version or you should do it again, because in live you can't really do it again. Like, it's one take and that's it. Maybe it'll be quote unquote perfect, maybe it won't, doesn't matter, that's not what it's meant to be. Whereas with recording, I think for a long time I kind of it became a really I guess unhealthy place for me, just because it was always kind of solo until, occasionally working with other people in the studio, but a lot of my studio time was solo. So it was just a lot of alone time, and I'm not one of those people who is kind of good at being alone. So it kind of, I like having other people around. And two, I never really had the confidence to say, that's a good take or that's not. So I would sit there doing like 100 versions of the same thing, and they would all sound the same, to be honest, but I would still be unhappy with them, and it just became not loving the process and instead really a draining thing. And
was that born out of like you being a perfectionist, or more that you weren't sure what you wanted?
I think both. I think probably though more the latter, because I think if I knew what I wanted, I wouldn't say perfectionism, because I guess the nature of perfectionism is not necessarily that you are perfect at things. It's more just the idea that you're striving for it. Yeah. But I think definitely more that I didn't know what I wanted, and I think that's actually a good way of putting it. Like, I definitely have had to spend a bit of time building up, I guess, trust in myself that I have a gut instinct, because I think for a long time I was like, how am I supposed to know what I want? I don't know what's good. I don't know what my mind changes every 2 seconds. Which is why I love live, because it's okay if your mind changes and you do a different. And to be honest, I don't think I ever play the same thing twice. It's a bit harder when I'm playing with the band, because it's kind of unfair.
More people involved. Like more.
But I love that freedom of not having to commit to an exact version of something, because it kind of freaks me out having to commit to something.
And how is that you mentioned this gut feeling? I'm always very fascinated by gut feeling, because especially for women, it's such an like instinct, like such an old, almost like back to like when we're just like running around in caves kind of feeling. And how is your relationship with it now? Because you said like it was really hard for you to like, trust it in the beginning. Do you feel like you've gotten to know it better, and you can trust it, or is it still like a process?
I was actually talking to a friend about this the other day, and what I realized, well, for me anyway, I think the way that I feel better about it now is coming to the realization that your gut feeling can change. I think that had confused me for so long, because I was like, how can you be settled on one thought or one feeling or like what? And so I think now I'm just like, in this exact moment, this is how I feel, but that could change in 2 minutes. And I guess that is my gut instinct. I guess I still don't know that I have a gut instinct. No. I don't like maybe some people do. I don't know. I feel like I don't. But I think how I've reckoned with it is just allowing myself to to be okay with my thoughts changing and like, yeah, I don't actually have to know how I'm going to feel about something in half an hour.
And I think that's fine. Sometimes I feel people are forcing themselves so much into this idea of like, I need to know everything and I need to have it all figured out, or about it, literally anything. And I think it's fine. It's funny because sometimes I feel when you're like tell people when you're young, like, oh, I want to be in music, they will always ask you, oh, and then you got to play arenas, you're gonna get famous. And I always as a kid was like, I wasn't even thinking about the whole famous aspect. And then you were kind of forced into that. And then when you like admit to people almost like you don't want to be that, it's almost like, oh, but then you're betraying your dream. And then I'm like, it's okay to change your mind. And I feel, especially in such an insecure and unstable business like music, it's okay to change your mind if it's about genre, about how big you want to be or how small you want to be. And it's such, I was listening to a podcast actually the other day, and they were talking about like how almost every musician is, or we're all like such sensitive people, and when then we're faced with such like a hard industry that doesn't almost allow us to like be vulnerable and sensitive. And how do you feel about that?
Oh no, I totally agree. I think one of in this kind of reevaluating everything period, one of the things I have come to realize is that I was just taking music too seriously. And I think I'm careful about how I say this, because I think music and art are so important to everybody, and so it's certainly not that I don't think they're important, but I think they're almost too important to get stressed about, if that makes sense. Like when you actually think about what we have riding on, whether the thing you actually commit to releasing is good, or you change your mind about it after it's been released. It's so low stakes. Like it actually, it really is. Like it's too important to everything holistically to get caught up on stressing about it. Like because nothing can stop you doing it other than your own stresses, and the ins and out of it really don't matter. Like, and also it's also subjective, and I just so I think it matters so much, but then also not at all, if that makes sense. Like,
no, totally. I think it's sometimes because it's you and you're showing this little piece of yourself to the world, so you want to of course be mindful of it and cautious. And then sometimes I feel, again, with the whole social media aspect and all your dreams and aspirations that you can have as a musician or starting even out in the industry, it can be tricky sometimes to have that connection to your gut feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think like the more you get caught up on trying to figure out your gut feeling, and or like the more you get caught up on one certain project or anything, the less time and space you have for exploring new ones. So I think it's also that balance of being like, okay, I don't actually know how I feel about this, but I want to do something else anyway. So like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you could, I always am interested in how people started out while doing this, and also what would you tell someone's little piece of advice when they're starting out in this crazy industry and they don't know what to do? What would be your advice?
I think my main piece of advice is that there is no one way for anything. And I mean, we've heard it 1,000 times, but comparison really is the devil. I think taking inspiration from people and watching other people and learning from them and getting inspired is so important. So it's certainly not like put your blinkers on and just go, but I think there is just no set one way to do anything. So comparing yourself to other people is just not useful. I think it is really important to have other people in mind, to take inspiration and learn. I suppose that's like my bigger point. Just stay a beginner. And there's so much learning to do, well, in everything in life, but you know, particularly in music, I don't think anyone is ever going to get to the point where there aren't more things they can learn and explore, and just stay excited. I think just kind of checking in on yourself and like what sort of like lifestyle helps you stay excited about music. And sometimes that's not doing it full time. Like sometimes it's actually wiser to say, I don't want to do music full time at the moment because it makes me feel too stressed about it. And therefore, to stay excited and sustain my love for it, I need to split it up with other things.
Well, thank you so much for that. I would love to end with this very special. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. It was lovely to have you. Could you maybe let the people know where they can find you online?
Of course. So all of my socials, Instagram, Spotify and TikTok, which I'm going to start using a little bit better, Thea Fitzgerald. So TheaFitzgerald. And yeah, I've got a few things on Spotify that you can listen to as well. But there's new music coming sometime in November.
Ooh, exciting.
So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And if you're in London, I let people know about my gigs on Instagram, so you can follow along there and find out. And yeah.
Amazing. That sounds so great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this was the Alpha Sessions with Pien.
I've been overly careful and cautious, not me who's gonna fall into that mess. Such an easily avoidable mistake to make. Like I was looking so hard for the trap, I fell right in between all its cracks. I'm not sure if it's Wonderland or hell. Oh, baby, you're like the red light I might have run through unintentionally, and I can't take it back 'cause I'm already through. No, I could wait for the fallout, but maybe we might not never come. I'm already through, so we might as well run. Might as well. They tell me there ain't no use in overthinking a problem that might never exist. And I've done so well avoiding things I might have to fix. Yeah, I've been sidestepping cracks in the pavement. Right foot's always fast through the door, but superstition can't save me when you do it so well. Oh, baby, you're like the red light I might have run through unintentionally, and I can't take it back 'cause I'm already through. Ooh, no, I could wait for the fallout, but maybe we might not never come. We're already through, so we might as well run, 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 might as well. Oh, yeah. So maybe we can run, honey, maybe we can run. Oh, no, 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 'cause baby, you're like the red light I might have run through unintentionally, and I can't take it back 'cause we're already through. You might as well.